So, ladies and gentlemen, would like to start our program today. And I'm very delighted that already we have in place 85 participants. I know some are still coming in. And therefore, allow me then just to start by giving my opening remarks. The chair of Acts Governing Council, Professor Alfred Oteng, members of Acts Governing Council that are present today, members of the College of Scholars of Acts, and members of the Callistus Juma Legacy Foundation, led by Angela Christiana, Professor Wesley Aris, and Professor John Mugabe. Our keynote speaker today, Professor Banji Oyeyinka, a former classmate of Professor Callistus Juma. Distinguished panels for today, Professor Maureen McIntosh, Dr. Shemo Chuodo, Professor Raphael Kaplinsku, Professor Erika Mbula, Professor Rasmus, and Professor Rasmus Lema, members of the press that are present here, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and good afternoon to all of you, wherever you are. First, before I make my brief overview about the CJ seminar series, the organization team has requested that we observe a minute of silence in honor of the late Professor Callistus Juma and as a way of celebrating his achievement. So I request a 1 minute silence. Okay, thanks very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to launch Professor Callistus Juma seminar series on knowledge and innovation for development, which is being organized by the African Center for Technology Studies in collaboration with Callistus Juma Legacy Foundation. As we all know, until his untimely death in December 2017, Professor Juma was an internationally recognized authority in the application of science, technology, and innovation for sustainable development, especially in developing countries. His work focused on analyzing how knowledge and innovation could be harnessed for development in the context of institutional change in socio-economic systems. All his initiatives promoted this agenda through advanced science, technology, and innovation policy research, especially in biotechnology, provision of high-level science and technology advice, and promotion of the conservation of biological diversity. He founded African Center for Technology Studies in 1988, where his initial development ideas were nurtured. ACT has become a leading intergovernmental science, technology, and innovation policy think tank, and mandated to strengthen the capacity of African countries and institutions to harness science, technology, and innovation for sustainable development. And I'm delighted to mention that today we are active and we have projects in over 25 African countries. In pursuit of this mission, ACT has been instrumental in enlarging the range of policy choices for sustainable development in Africa through high-quality research, outreach, and policy dialogues. For example, ACT's work influenced Kenya's industrial property legislation and policy, environmental impact assessment standards in Eastern and Southern Africa, and the formulation of bioenergy and biofuel policies in Eastern and West Africa. It has policy footprints. In most policies in agriculture, biodiplomacy, biotechnology, biosafety, and climate change policies in Africa. ACT was the first to organize an international conference to discuss options that African countries could adopt to mitigate the impact of climate change. It also played a major role in the negotiation for the Convention on Biodiversity. And due to its excellent work, ACT has earned top ratings amongst the environmental think tank in Africa and in the world. In 2016, for example, ACT was rated amongst the top 3 most influential think tank in climate change globally and #1 in Africa. Currently, ACT is implementing its 6th strategic plan, which is dedicated to Professor Callistus Juma. The strategic plan is running from 2019 to 2021, and it is hoped through it to lay the foundation for the immortalization of Professor Callistus Juma. And as a result, allow me just to mention the following 3 points. First is that the African Center for Technology Studies has remained true to Professor Callistus Juma's original vision and attention to science, technology, and innovation, policy research, and its application for sustainable development. This current strategic plan, therefore, focuses on the core thematic areas that were always seen as the most important by Professor Juma. This includes agriculture and food security, climate change and energy, and the role of science, technology, and innovation in addressing the challenges that are affecting these sectors. Secondly, we have remained true to the charter that established ACT. In 2018, for example, the Governing Council established the College of Scholars, which is one of the organs that the 1988 charter provided for. And the Governing Council appointed Professor Shem Wandiga as its first dean. I'm delighted to mention that the College of Scholars was recently launched in June 2021 as guided by the strategic plan. And finally, we have strived to work very closely with the Callistus Juma Legacy Foundation to enhance synergy in our efforts to build the foundation for CJ's immortalization. I'm glad, ladies and gentlemen, that today we will not only witness the signing of an MOU between ACT and the CJ Legacy Foundation, but also you are participating in the first collaborative event organized by the 2 organizations to keep the CJ's dream alive by creating a platform that will elicit discussions around knowledge and innovation for development. In conclusion, allow me to say that the launch of this seminar today is not a one-off event. We aim to keep the discussions going, focused, and therefore the topics for the seminars series will always be centered on Professor Juma's previous work. This seminar series will be held once every 3 months and will culminate to ACT's CJ Foundation Conference in 2022. We believe that you all cherish the work of CJ. We'll therefore call upon you before you leave for this conference, this seminar today, to help shape the agenda of the CJ seminar series going forward by proposing issues for discussions that you feel are not only relevant to the work of CJ, but also captures the aspiration of Africa as it is today and in the future. And with that, I would like to say to all of you, big thank you for participation in today's seminar. And I therefore take this honor and humble opportunity to invite my chair, Professor Alfred Oteng, to formally welcome you on behalf of all of us. Thank you, Professor, and the microphone is now yours.
I'm pleased to be part of this and to provide a welcome statement to all the participants in this very important seminar series, which I believe is going to begin the process of immortalizing CJ, or Callistus Juma. I want to start with a quote, and the quote is actually from a very famous Scottish poet named Norman Campbell, who lived between 1777 and 1844. He stated, and I quote, "To live in hearts we leave behind is not to die." I'm using this quote to actually preface my statement of welcome to all of you, distinguished scholars and associates of Callistus Juma, who lived and worked with us from sunrise period of 9th June 1952 to sunset period 15th December 2017. I speak on behalf of the Governing Council of the African Center for Technology Studies, which is based in Nairobi. And I say this in my capacity as its chairman. For us in arts, there is no way you can talk about arts without a tacit reference to Callistus. I think the process of establishing arts has already been indicated by the executive director. But what I want to say is that arts was founded from scratch through the initial STI developmental ideas, which Callistus started nurturing. Now, these ideas, which he published during the time of his tenure as Executive Director of Arts, and later, these became the blueprint, which have been followed by successive executive directors, including John Mugabe, Judy Wahungu, Tom Ogada, etc. Callistus has been many things to many people, but for us in arts, we saw him and continue to see him as an intellectual giant who made the youth of Africa proud in his very singular pursuit of knowledge and accomplishments to make the continent aware of and sought for better ways to derive benefits from these enormous genetic resources. Callistus saw this as happening through exposure in areas of science, technology, and innovation. Much of the mandate of arts has been provided, and its successes have been also indicated by the Executive Director, Tom. But let me say that the Governing Council is proud to associate with the CJ Legacy Foundation to start this lecture series. This falls in line with the Governing Council's desire, which had already been mooted in its deliberations in reference to the idea of immortalizing Callistus Juma. And I also indicate again, to us at Arts, Callistus lives in our hearts, and therefore, to quote Norman Campbell, he is still with us. With these brief remarks, I want to welcome all the participants to this very, very important lecture series. And I believe all of us will gain a lot at the end of the process. Thank you